Are you a multifamily investor and you currently have a vacant apartment unit and you're contemplating what type of improvements should you do to the unit that will bring the rental rate to the highest amount? Or do you currently own a multifamily property and your rental rates are well below market and you began to ask yourself, how can I increase my income? Should I vacate the tenants? And once they're vacated, what type of improvements really will increase the rental rates and thus the value of my property? Well, then this video is for you. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Kris German, and welcome back to the Apartment Dealer Show. Today, we're going to open Kris's wallet. We're going to dive into the financials on my most recent multifamily rehab. I vacated a tenant, rehabbed the unit, brought the rent to above market value, and I'm going to walk you through the process of what was involved, what capital improvements did we invest in, how much did I spend, how much did the rental rate move up, and then you can decide for yourself, did this move make sense? Here recently in California, the rules changed when it comes to substantial improvements. Prior to April 1st of 2024, you would simply have to give a tenant a 60-day notice to vacate, a notice, and then once they vacated, return them their last month's rent plus a security deposit. And then from there, you could take possession of the unit. And so long as you were going to improve one of the major systems like the plumbing, electrical, and so forth, they gave you the right to take back the unit. You could do your improvements and then move your rents to market with a new tenant. Well, the rules changed. Here now, as of April 1st, the law states that you're going to give your tenant that 60-day notice, but along with that notice, you would have to have already pulled the permits for the work that you're going to complete. You have to give the tenant a scope of work. What is it that you're going to do to the unit, and explain to them why it's going to take more than 30 days. In other words, it's much more involved. But this particular project we're working on, this all began before the new rules, and so none of that applied. But just be mindful of that going forward. Now, this particular property is a 4-unit property, a fourplex, single-story construction. I've already rehabbed 2 of the 4 units. This is now the 3rd. And we're going to walk you through here, demo to finished product. What was the previous rent? What is the rent that I'm able to collect in the end? How much money did I spend to get there? Then you can decide if this project makes sense. We're now going to jump to footage that I recorded at the property when we began the project. And then we're slowly going to walk you through as the improvements are done. And then we're going to come back here and dive through the financials. But let's go to the property now. We have some footage of what the unit looked like prior to demolition, because demolition has began. Essentially, this is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, single-story, multifamily unit. You'll see that at one time this had, or still has, but they're not in great shape, natural wood floor. The condition is basically beyond a state of repair. Plus, I prefer to use tile. At any rate, we're not going to try to preserve the wood floors. We're going to demo all the flooring out and come back behind and use tile flooring. Now, this cutout here essentially is a portion of the bedroom. And what we want to do is, if at all possible, create an area for a dining room set. We find that that'll help with the rental rate. And so what we have figured out is we're going to cut into this area and basically eliminate the closet in the bedroom, because that's what this area is. Starting at about up to here, that's the closet for the 1-bedroom tucked back in the corner. We're going to eliminate that, and I'll show you what we're going to do given the fact we're eliminating the bedroom. But then that'll open up this area and give us give an opportunity to offer an area for dining. So then we'll have our living room, dining room, and then of course our kitchen. Now, this unit has not been updated at all. It's original plumbing, original drains, original electrical. So we're going to go through and change everything. Many of you probably, those of you that own here in Southern California, multifamily landlords probably know that insurance, property insurance has become a real issue. And one of the main things they inquire about, the insurance companies that is, have you updated your electrical panels? So we always do that because by the time we add in the ACs and all of the other items that are going to draw on the electricity, there's never enough breakers and that sort of thing. So we're going to have to update that. I'll show you that here in a second. So we're going to eliminate the heater. It'll be all in one unit. And then, of course, we're going to come back behind. We're going to change out all these plug switches, make it all Decora style. As we head into the kitchen, there's tile now, but this is not what I would use. So this is all going to come out. All this is going to, most of the cabinetry has been demoed out, but this is all coming out. And the windows were replaced by the previous owner. They were updated. I would have used a higher quality, but they're good enough. So I'm not going to be changing out the windows. They already are dual pane windows. So we're going to leave those. So this is our bedroom. Now, it's fairly decent size. Again, this is a 1-bedroom apartment, but what we're going to do here is we're going to trash that AC. We're going to put in a unit that's both heat and AC. We've actually found some really good units that are affordable, work well, and if you can offer AC and heat, the tenants are that much more appreciative. So we're going to do that. We'll pan around this way to show you the closet area. So this is your traditional 1960s closet. Now, if I wasn't going to eliminate it, let's say I didn't need the space for the dining room, some investors would simply put new hardware and paint this and call it a day. Well, I don't know that that's the best idea. If you were to do that, and if you've seen some of my other projects, what I would at least do is put a double rack so that they can at least put 2 rows of clothes. We've done that. There's not enough room to make a double closet. We've done that in some of our other projects. This isn't wide enough, but at least, put a double pole here. But again, we're eliminating this. And even if we weren't eliminating it, like I say, we would figure out how to offer more storage, more space. We would change these doors to something more modern rather than just painting them. And actually what we probably would do is even raise where the initial pole is, shrink that up somewhat for the storage, maybe just offer a smaller cubby to put some shoes up there, but just give it more space below is what I would do if I was keeping the closet. But we're not. We're going to eliminate that. Now this door, it actually has some nice attributes to it given the style, but again, it's been painted over several times. The the hinges have been painted over several times. It beat to hell. So we're going to eliminate this, and put a new door. And as we come this way, it's a little narrow, but this is all going to get taken out. Again, this is 1960s style with the pull-out drawers and what have you. And what we're going to end up with is we have about 6 feet of space here. This is where we're going to put the closet, and we're going to put glass closet doors or sliding glass doors. And we'll have our double shelf with some storage above. And then here we have our water heater. I was here with the contractor and we were figuring out, do we have enough width where we can get that good sized closet in? In here, it's a traditional water heater, vertical tank. In another unit, it wasn't as long for whatever reason the hallway was. And so we actually went with a tankless. We figured out we don't need to do that here. That'll save us some money. We are going to change out the water heater. Right now, it's a ream. Reams are not great. Sorry, Home Depot. And we're going to come back behind and we either use A.O. Smith or Bradford White. Those have shown just to offer more longevity. This heater will be gone. That'll just offer, make this walkway space a little bit cleaner. And then we're going to show you the electrical panel here. So these breakers obviously are the style. I'm not sure which brand they are. But again, you're not going to get insured here in California with these type of breakers. So we're going to update this panel. We're going to need more circuits anyways. By the time we have our garbage disposal, our microwave, our range, our 2 ACs, the additional plugs and outlets and what have you, we need more outlets. So where this will get changed out. And then as we come into the bathroom, it's crazy to think some people live this way, and it's even crazier to think that the previous investor never did anything about this, but that is what it is. This is not the biggest bathroom, and basically over here, well, you can't really see it, but you can see here we have the toilet. So you can sit on the toilet and shave at the same time, I guess was the idea. What we're going to do is we're going to create a vertical shower. And then we're going to have the sink, and then we'll have the toilet. We have enough room here. We've done it in one other unit so that on this wall, essentially, now it'll just be blank. We put some towel hangers and so forth, but all the plumbing needs will be on one wall. Other than that, the only other thing we're going to do I didn't mention is, of course, recessed lighting throughout the entire unit. Living room, dining room, kitchen, hallway, bedroom, bathroom, all of it will be recessed lighting. And then we're going to update you along the way, share with you how the project is looking as we go through the process. Hopefully all goes well with no snags. There's always things that pop up, things that maybe that you didn't account for or what have you. But as long as you have a good tradesman, there's workaround. So demolition is obviously complete. We're just about done with the wiring for the recessed lighting, for the plugs and so forth. We're getting there. We're working the Romex through and so forth. But I'm going to have my cameraman kind of pan around here. So you may remember that previously there was a cutout here. You can actually see the notch in the floor. And we wanted to push that back so that you could have a true dining area. A lot of these one bedrooms don't have a space for a dining room table, especially in one bedroom apartments. And if you can finagle one some way, somehow, it definitely is a plus. I mean, can you imagine always having to eat dinner on your couch or something like that? And so if you can make a space, even if it's for only like one of those 4-person card table size fold-out tables, something. The tenants will appreciate the space. And again, we're always keeping in mind what little things can we do that would add value to the unit, that'll separate our unit from another unit as they're, perusing different units for rent. And most importantly, what'll help us achieve above market rent. So you can see we've got some of the recessed lighting here dangling. Obviously, that's going through. They've done some of the drywall work here as they're working their way through. Now, in this project, because this property is on raised foundation, what I've decided to do, and I don't know why this didn't dawn on me earlier in my career, is I've always done the plumbing and the electrical, hot and cold water lines, both vertical and horizontal. Horizontal meaning a lot of people will do the horizontal, just the hot and cold lines underneath the property, or maybe they'll come up in the ceiling. But then obviously to do the vertical, you'd have to break open the walls. And so a lot of people avoid that. We do full remodels anyhow. And so it finally dawned on me, well, you know what? What's the number one call that you get for maintenance? Typically it's backups in the plumbing, from the sink, from a toilet. I said, you know what? The old style cast iron drains, they're done. These places that have been built in the 50s and 60s, they've exceeded their lifespan. And so now it's time. It's time for us to update the drains. So you'll see here, we got a bunch of plastic with us, and they've already started updating the drains, and that's going to be all the way through. So if we were to go in the crawl space, we're not. But if we were to go down there, you'd see that, you know what? For this property here, about 75% of it, all the drainage has been replaced and updated to plastic. That's going to save me in the long run. Does it cost me much more money? No. I mean, we already have everything broke open anyways. And so again, why that didn't dawn on me, I don't know. But going forward, that's something that we plan to do. Now, of course, if you're on slab, that's a whole nother deal. If you're on slab, no one's going to be breaking open concrete and that sort of thing. So probably good enough is when you go to buy a property, hire somebody to scope the sewer lines, the drain lines, and just see, is there a lot of buildup? Is there cracks in the pipes? If everything looks good, look at on slab, that would be, even for me, I'd say no. I mean, at some point, you surpass the cost benefit of something like that. But so anyways, drains, now you see here that we got our hookups for our stackable washer dryer. So it's going to go stackable washer dryer. We'll have our stove. We'll have the overhead microwave that'll vent to the outside. I probably got to remind them about that because I don't see it. I'm sure they know. But and then we're going to have our fridge. You'll see here, if we have the cameraman come in behind me, that we have the hookup here for the water line. A lot of folks now, the refrigerators anymore have hookups so that they either have an exterior water dispenser, ice maker, or in this size, because it's going to be more of an apartment size fridge, not a double door. They at least have a water dispenser and ice maker inside the fridge. Obviously, the demo's done here. They've pulled the wiring through for the recessed lighting. Yeah, that's about where that's at. Plumbing looks like they've stubbed out the shower. We got our copper in for the shower. Looks like we're ready for our sink. Well, I don't know that we're ready for the toilet here, but at any rate, we're going to have it it had the tub, as you've seen from the previous footage, and then the toilet, and then the sink here. So if you'd like, you could sit in the toilet, shave at the same time, quite accommodating, but we're changing that. So now it's going to have a single person stand-up shower. It's going to be all fully tiled, all dialed in. And then we'll have our vanity, and then we'll have the toilet. All the plumbing on one wall. So then here you have just essentially a blank space, or you will put up our towel racks. You'll notice here that they blew this part out. Why? Because this is going to become the closet for the unit. You'll see why here in a moment. But based upon me creating more space in the living room, I eliminated the closet in the bedroom. So you need to provide a closet. So this is going to be that closet area. We got about 6 feet here to work with. So that's going to be perfect. And you'll see my panel, pretty much they got it all dialed in here, right? So in California, insurance companies are leaving by the droves. And the ones who are staying, they're saying, look, we need you to upgrade your electrical panels for sure. And sometimes they're saying, hey, we need to address your plumbing, right? They're fully aware that the systems have ran their lifespan. So we've updated our panel. That's going to help me out with the insurance. Number one. Number two, I needed to anyways because we're adding in additional needs, electrical needs. So we need more breakers and so forth. So that's on its way getting done. So this is the portion that I'm talking about, is the closet. So the closet, trying to find the line here, but it probably was here. Yeah, came out to about here. We've eliminated it. And you see we went with an angle just to get as much possible space as we can for the living room, but still give us enough room in the bedroom so that you can get at least a full-size bed, queen, and a dresser, make it livable. But not only are they going to gain a dining room space, but the new closet that we're going to be building out is going to have shelving. It'll have double racks. It's going to give them that much more space for clothing and shoes and all that good stuff. It's going to be a win-win for the tenant. Of course, we have our recessed lighting that's got in. And essentially, we're going to have 4 can lights. We'll have a ceiling fan in the middle. No light kit on the fan. Number one, it drops it too low. Number two, you don't need the light kit because we have obviously recessed lighting. So it's just going to be a fan butted up against the ceiling. This AC is going to come out. We're going to put in a new one, AC and heat. The one in the living room is going to come out. That's going to be AC and heat. And slowly and surely, we're going to put this project together. So if you watch the recent episodes or the initial footage, you know that this unit was in disarray. The previous tenant had lived here for a number of years, and the previous owner who owned this property, I can't explain why they hadn't upgraded the unit much, but it was in bad shape. So we came through and redid the entire unit, as we've done some of the others for the property. You'll see that we updated all the plug switches to Decora style. I think most people do that now. I can't imagine anyone using the older style unless you're trying to create a certain vintage look of a unit. And then we have our baseboard. These are about 5.5 inches thick. Nowadays you want real just plain Jane baseboard. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we used to do it where it had like the bevels and so forth. Now everything you want, just clean lines, and those a little bit more modernized. So a very plain baseboard, but thick. You don't want, a thinner style. Probably the biggest change in this room is originally that wall stuck out more here, and we pushed it back by eliminating the closet in the bedroom and to give them a dining room space. So these units aren't all that large. And so without a dining room, or I should say by the addition of a dining room, that adds to the appeal of the unit. And when we look at the appeal, we look at how much more asking rent we can get. As we come into the kitchen, you'll see that this has all been updated, the layout changed around. Of course, we have our gray shaker cabinets. Before, we maybe would have used white, and you could use white and a gray countertop just for a different look. Before, in the old days, we used to go just with the cheapest stove and microwave we could find, which typically were white in color. Again, nowadays, it seems like just for an extra, maybe $100, $150, you can get the stainless steel appliances. And one good thing, kind of a shout out to Best Buy, is they have a special program. You pay once a year, and then anything you buy at Best Buy gets an extended warranty. So of course, as we're buying appliances for our units, that goes under my account. If I'm buying things for the office, that goes under the account, things for my home. I just recently bought a new refrigerator, a second refrigerator for our home. Everything has this extended warranty. So my point being is you don't have to buy the extended warranties for the appliances. Again, at Best Buy, they have this program, and then you just renew annually, and then your warranties will continue on. With respect to the cabinets, again, I assume most people are using this now, but of course, we have the soft close. Everything is the soft close. I can't imagine people not using this now because everything has just become that much more economical. These hinges, once upon a time, used to be more expensive. So, okay, maybe you have to cut corners depending on your budget. Maybe you couldn't, make sense to add these sorts of things. But nowadays, I think everyone's doing it. So on this particular property, it's 4 units. We've done 3 units now. So 3 units, all the plumbing's copper. All the drain lines have been replaced. We have 1 unit to go. So you can imagine the added value. If and when I were to ever sell this property, it literally is like a new structure. Other than us changing the studs, everything else is literally new because we also did do the electrical, and I'll get to that in a minute. We added a room for a stackable washer dryer. I know some people are trying to, when they're doing the math, they're doing the accounting, they're saying, well, that's going to increase your water usage. You have to know what are the available rents in your location, the type of tenant base that you're trying to attract. And yes, there is a cost to it, but we pick up any added cost in water. We'll pick up in the rental rate. So we add the washer and dryer hookups. We don't supply the machines, just like I don't supply the refrigerators. I don't think that makes much sense unless you're competing in an A+ location. This is not an A+ location. If you're competing in an A+ location, then you may want to provide the machines because tenants just assume or expect that you're going to have the machines for them. Here, it's like, look, we have the hookups. You can add a machine if you like. If not, no problem. And you'd be surprised how many of units we've done like this, where people gravitate to the units because of the hookups, but they never buy the machines. So I guess there's a savings for us overall in terms of they don't have that additional water usage. These particular back doors, you guys have seen it before. You see my units, but now they're a little bit different here. So now this one here, they have it's a one mechanism to make the blind go up and down. And then it's a second one that actually opens and closes it. So this is an improvement from the ones we've had before. Prior, it was just one mechanism that did both. A little tricky to work, but you'll notice that the blind itself is between the panes of the glass so that the tenant doesn't mess it all up. Or not just the tenant, but just normal wear and tear, opening the door, closing it, it starts swinging back and forth. These particular back doors or these doors, we buy at Contractor's Warehouse. There's a few of them throughout Southern California, but that's where we find these for an economic price. Of course, along with our black knobs, we have our black fixture. We have a nice deep sink. And then, of course, we add a garbage disposal. Originally, this had a tub and shower, but given the size, not, your largest bathroom. So what we decided was, in order to get a really modern feel to the unit, an aesthetic appeal to the unit, by building this now just as a stand-up shower, it just really adds to the overall look of what is a very small bathroom. So, of course, we have the shampoo niche here. We have one type of tile for the shower pan, and then we use that same tile as an accent in the shampoo bowl here, or the shampoo shelf. And I think, again, we could go with a larger tile. I understand some of you are looking at this and saying, well, gosh, that type of tile is more expensive. It's more work for the tradesmen. It's going to be a little bit more costly for the install. Yes. But the bottom line is, for a few extra bucks, this is going to last how long until I redo this shower? Probably a decade, right? So over the years of renting it, I want something that's very appealing to the tenant. So this size of a tile, which I can't even tell you what size it is, maybe it's like 10 by 4 maybe or something, is better than if we would have done a much larger tile, because as you can imagine, with a much larger tile, there would have been less of them and it would have just looked like a big wall of gray. So my opinion, just something I share. Of course, we have the darker fixtures as well. And then as you come into the bathroom, our towel hanger is a little bit more modernized looking towel hanger. We have one here, one behind the door that you can't see. Our hand towel, again, everything is just the darker colors. Smaller vanity, obviously, given the size of the bathroom, but still gray in color. And we went with this flat mirror, no medicine cabinet. It just looks a little bit more modern. So we're tending to trend away from medicine cabinets and just simple mirrors on the wall. I think most people are doing that now. As we swing in here, before we get to electrical panel, you remember that there was shelving here, much older, 50s, 60s looking style. Since I eliminated the closet, as I mentioned earlier, to create room for the dining room, we basically opened this all up, and then we made a double shelf with double shelf with a double clothes hanger here. So if it's a couple, kind of like a his and hers, but definitely enough space. There's not a linen closet, but again, for this size of a bed unit, the type of tenant that we know is going to end up in the unit, this is perfect amount of space. And then we, went with your 6-foot traditional mirrored closet doors. They may want to, have a mirror to be able to check their outfit before they go out. And they're only a couple bucks more than if it was a solid panel of plastic. These much look bigger. And by having a mirror, rule of thumb is it makes the unit look a little bit bigger too. Here, we've updated our sub panel. So for any of you here in California that you've had your insurance canceled, I know many of you have actually had your insurance canceled, even after being with carriers for a number of years, because you either had a Zinsco panel, you had stab lock, you had things that had been on recall. Maybe your plumbing is an issue for your particular carrier. Anyways, we did it obviously because we updated all the electrical. We needed more circuits because of the demand of the unit. But more and more, you're finding that regardless of any of that, they want you to update your panels. It's just the state of affairs, because property insurance now has gone up 2 and 3 times. And if you don't want to just be relying on, say, California Fair Plan, and you want, a real legitimate plan with all the coverage, the sub panels are getting, that's a big issue right now. As we step into the bedroom, here's the second AC that I mentioned. I'll have Frank come in and pan around just so you can see what we've done here. So the closet before came out here, right? So this was our closet. And so we brought the wall in. we angled it so that to have as much room as we possibly could, but to still create a small dining room space. And somebody can still get comfortably, definitely a queen, I don't know about a king, but a queen size bed with a couple nightstands in here comfortably. And that does the trick. So as we're contemplating, okay, what is it we're going to do with a particular unit? The main driver is what's going to add to the highest rental rate. That's always number one. It's not because I want a pretty unit. It's not because, oh, look how great my units look. Number one, what's going to drive the rental rates? And what you'll find is by even things like this. I could have installed a regular 6-panel door. We call those, like the apartment style doors. This particular door is not much more expensive and it's much more appealing. It's much more modern. And you say, Kris, is the tenant really going to pay you more because you have this bedroom door as opposed to a different bedroom door? No, not the bedroom door alone, but between the bedroom door and the black knobs and door jambs and the color scheme of the unit and the baseboards and the tile instead of carpet and all the rest, that is what adds up. That's going to lend itself to a higher rental rate. So now we're going to get into the financials. What did Kris spend? And then you can size up for yourself. Would you do the same? Or do you think I made a mistake? Let's look at those figures now. Okay, so let's now dive into some numbers. The entire project cost me $47,850. Now you might hear that number and say, well, that's a big number. And it is a big number. Thanks to Bidenomics, everything costs more anymore. Labor costs more, materials cost more, everything costs more. And there's a few items here that you may say, well, Kris didn't really have to complete those items. And I would concur. There are some items on here that I would say not necessary. But we like to be one and done, lift the value of the property. And so anyways, at the end of the day, total is $47,850. But how did we get there? Well, let's start with the plumbing. As I mentioned, it's all copper, hot water lines, cold water lines, horizontal, vertical, $4,500. Then, as I mentioned, we updated all the drains. I don't want any calls for backed up drains, $1,500. Just think about how many calls do you get in a particular unit, especially if it's an older 50s, 60s unit building, and you're having to clear the drain from the tub, clear the drain from the toilet, clear the drain from the sinks. You get a couple of calls, let's say like that a year. Any more, they want $300 or more for these calls. Well, after 4 or 5 of these calls, you've paid for your new drains. Okay, drains, $1,500. The bathroom, demoing the bathroom, tearing out the old shower and tub, building and framing it out so it's a stand-up shower with the new tile, accent tile, everything we had going there, $7,500. The kitchen, tearing out the kitchen, redesigning the layout, reorganizing the plumbing so that we could have the stackable washer and dryer, move things around, $8,500. The electrical, so we're talking about recessed lighting, running all the Romex throughout, and the updated sub panel, $9,000. Flooring, it's tile flooring throughout, as you saw in the video, $2,500 tile and the install. Now, the cost to open up that area to make room for a dining room where we closed off the closet in the bedroom and expanded the area in the living room, $3,500. The closet itself, where I reconfigured that hallway area to make a 6-foot closet with the double shelves, $1,500. And then the replacement of the water heater, that was $1,500 for the new water heater and the install. And remember, A.O. Smith, Bradford White, those cost a little bit more than the reams that you'll find at Home Depot. The ACs, so an AC in the bedroom, an AC in the living room, cutting open the stucco because we changed the locations, sealing that all up, and the ACs themselves with heat, dual machines here, $1,500. The back door. Actually, I don't think I mentioned in the video, but we had to move the back door over slightly to make room for that stackable washer and dryer so that it wouldn't impede opening the door. In the old unit, I know we didn't show you this, so the way it was configured before, if you try to open that door, it would hit the stack. If you had a stackable washer and dryer, we had to move the door over. So anyways, all of that, the reframing the door and so forth, and the door itself install, $750. The blinds. So, we had the thicker Foxwood blinds. You can find those at Home Depot. all the blinds plus the install, because Kris is not doing that, $950. Plugs and switches, so Decora, all the plugs, all the switches, $3,800. The appliances, stove and microwave, $850. So there's your grand total of $47,850. So now, did this make sense? I'll give you my vantage point. You're free to your opinion. Share in the comments below. What is it? What's your take on this? The previous tenant was paying $800. Okay. We just rented the unit. We had one showing. We advertise our units on Zillow. Matter of fact, I'm going to link here. You'll see a video here that I recorded earlier this year or year prior, where I walk you through exactly how to list, market, and rent your units, best practices. But Zillow, my showing, it was a one and done. We rented that for $1,600. So we went from $800 per month to $1,600. Well, that's $9,600 more per year. Now, if you take that $9,600 and you value that based upon gross rent multiplier, GRM, this is a marker that we use within commercial real estate to value multifamily properties, larger assets. Same applies. This is multifamily. And let's say market's a little depressed right now as I'm recording this video. Let's say that I use 13 GRM. Once upon a time, we would have used 15, especially for a fourplex. But let's use 13 so you don't think I'm overselling my case here. $9,600 times 13 gives you an increased value of $125,000. So I spent $47,850. Plus you could say, well, Kris, you got to include there 1 month's lost rent. Okay, throw that in there. Throw a couple months in there. I still gained up to $125,000 in value. And as I mentioned, I've already done 2 other units as well. We only have 1 remaining. So I've increased not only my net income, but we've increased the overall value of the property. To me, that's a win-win, because what would have been the other option? To leave the previous tenant at $800 a month and only raise the rents at 5% plus CPI, as rent control here is California. This year, that would have been 8.8%. Okay, you do the math, 8% on $800. I'm going nowhere fast. So this is why, as in previous properties, we do these substantial improvements. Not only does it make sense from a financial standpoint, but it is, every time you've heard me say this, I want to give tenants a place that I and my wife would want to live ourselves. So maybe we go a little overboard on the selection of tile and some of the things we do. Fine, I can see that. But I want to offer tenants a place where I would want to live. And I'll tell you, proof is in the pudding. At the showing, tenants are like, how can I lock up this unit right now? The young man that I ended up renting the unit to, he said, look, I'm ready, let's go. He qualified credit and everything else, and he gave me a non-refundable deposit, meaning if he wouldn't have moved forward, he lost his deposit because he was that serious. But the bottom line is, how much time did I save by not having go to the property multiple times, multiple showings, losing another month worth of rent because it took me a while to rent it? Because if I would have had a plain Jane unit and I'm competing with all the other plain Jane units that are on the market, that's just not a winning strategy. You've seen Bruce Norris here on our channel, and he taught me long ago, Kris, you want your property, your units to be a tiebreaker. That in the end, if a tenant is trying to decide between 2 different units to rent, yours is the tiebreaker based upon quality. Obviously, we got the job done here. And I will note also, as of the recording of this video, vacancies are sitting on the market a little bit longer. More and more, our clients, investors are sharing with us that it's harder to find quality tenants. Well, this is a quality tenant, and I won't, disclose financials of the tenant themselves, but more than exceeded our income requirement, met our credit requirement, work history requirement, all the things that you would be looking for. That works for us. I hope you found today's video helpful. I hope that the information we're sharing is helping you take your multifamily properties in a positive direction. We're moving our rental rates up, which then increases our equity. And as we increase our income and our equity, we're increasing our standard of living. That is the name of the game. Be sure to give this video a like, share the video with other landlords that you know. We're here to help landlords not just survive multifamily investments, but to truly, truly thrive. That's what we do here at the Apartment Dealer. And if you own multifamily properties in Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, Riverside County, we are here to assist you. You have questions with respect to your portfolio. How can you make improvements? How can you grow? How can you move forward in the areas of cash flow appreciation and tax savings? Please reach out to us. We're here to help. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Hours and hours of free educational content already exists here that I'm sure if you haven't viewed already or if you're new to our channel would be helpful to you. And in the days, weeks, and months ahead, we have that much more content planned for you. This way you'll get those alerts as we release the content. Kris German from the Apartment Dealer, wishing you positive cash flow, tenants who behave, and much protection from Uncle Sam. Till next time.